Hi, Steve here with my weekly diet update.
Okay, so I went to measure my body fat this week, and what I saw gave me quite a shock. It said I was 37% body fat, and I thought there was something wrong, and apparently there was. The little sensor measuring the height wasn't working too good, so it thought I was 4'9". So that's why it was so high. I tried again, and it was more accurate. So I weigh a little bit less this week, and my percentage is still the same, and my fat mass is about the same, but I'm figuring it might be a little better than that because the machine's saying I'm 6 foot, and I'm actually 6'1". So maybe that would make a little difference. I hope it works better next week.
Okay, but yeah, so the workouts went good again this week. Did the squats at the beginning of the week. Actually threw some leg press in there. The guy at the gym said if I did some leg presses and brought my knees up really close to my chest, it would help out with my technique for the squats. So I did all that, and then I did my usual swimming and stair stepper, and then the little weight machine circuit I do for the rest of the week. And I stuck to my diet. And this weekend's my wife's birthday, so I might be eating a little bit more this weekend, but not too much. I'm not really worried about it. Okay, so I'm running out of video game collections to share. I only have a few more left. My Nintendo Wii, Nintendo Wii U, Xbox 360, PS3, and PS4. And those collections aren't really that big. So I'm running out of stuff to do videos on. I could do them on more DVDs, but right now some of my DVDs are lent out to friends, so I'm going to wait till I get those back. Okay, anyway, this week I'm just going to do the old top 20 video games, my favorite video games of all time. My top 20 favorite video games of all time. Okay, I have to throw this one into my top 20. MTV Music Generator Volume 1 for the PlayStation. This is a game I spent a lot of time on, and it's not really a game, but I had to throw it in there because of all the time I spent on it. You can pretty much compose your own music on this thing with all the little sample instruments they have on here, and it's something I really enjoyed to do. So this game is on my top 20 favorite video games of all time list. Okay, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. This is the Xbox 360 version, but I played through it on PC and PS3. Whatever it's on, it's good. I spent a lot of time on this one. I think I unlocked every achievement on this game. I played this game a lot back when I had free time. And I never went to the gym or anything. I just sat around and got fat and ate junk food and played this game. But man, those were some good times. This is a really big, fun adventure role-playing game. I was kind of afraid to pick up and play role-playing games before this, but once I picked this one up, it was really accessible to someone who'd never played role-playing games before. Almost just played like an action game with all those role-playing game elements, but it was a really big, fun game to play, fun to go explore this huge map and unlock everything, look for all the caves, all the dungeons, all the cities, all the villages. Really fun game. Fallout 3. I had never played any Fallout games before this. I was never a big PC gamer. What interested me about this one was that Bethesda was developing it and publishing it, and they were the ones that had done Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. So this kind of had my attention, and then from watching the previews of it looked really good. And then when I played it, it was pretty much a sequel to this, only rather than being set in medieval fantasy times, it was set in post-apocalyptic times. Kind of as if the apocalypse had happened in the 1950s. and this was the Aftermath. This is a really fun adventure open world role-playing game, action shooter. You can go third person or first person. I usually do third person because first person gives me a headache sometimes. And anyway, this is a big fun adventure, very similar to Oblivion. It almost feels like a sequel to Oblivion. All of the leveling up and the skills and the abilities and the maps, your inventory, it feels a lot like Oblivion. It almost feels like it's in the same series. I hadn't played any Fallouts before this, and I hadn't played any Elder Scrolls before this. But those two games are similar. They're both big, fun, immersive games. I unlocked every achievement on this twice, once on Xbox and once on PS3 with the trophies. But this is a really fun game. Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. This is probably my favorite Game Boy game. Well, actually it is. Just a really fun Super Mario adventure. In the same vein as Super Mario 1, 2, 3, Super Mario World, but on Game Boy. A black and white game. Maybe not as big as Super Mario 3 or Super Mario World, but really fun Mario game nonetheless. Resident Evil 1. And I picked the DS version here. I do like the remake on GameCube. That's up there too. If I didn't pick this, it would probably be the remake. I even like the original PlayStation 1 version. So pretty much Resident Evil 1 takes this spot. I'm showing you this one because this is the only version of the original Resident Evil I have right now. But when I first played Resident Evil on PlayStation 1, it totally blew my mind what games could do. It was like the first game I ever played that felt like a movie, like you're controlling a horror movie, like an old George A. Romero movie, with the camera angles and anything. It wasn't like any game I had ever played, and even though the voice acting was really cheesy and the lines were corny, I enjoyed it a lot, because I tend to like campy, cheesy zombie movies of the 70s. So this game was right up my alley. I remember my friends were telling me about this game, and from what they were describing to me, it made me really interested in this, so I went and rented it on PS1, and I enjoyed it so much I bought it, or I saved up some money and bought it, and I played the heck out of that game. This is one of the games I have where I can go back and play it like once a year and enjoy it. Yeah, just a fun horror adventure game set in a big mansion. 007 Everything or Nothing for the original Xbox here. It was also on PlayStation 2 and GameCube. Every version is good. It seemed to look a little bit better and play a little bit better to me personally on the Xbox, so that's why I have this version. I could take any of the other versions as well though. This is a really fun 007 adventure game. It's not based on any 007 story, any novel or movie. It's its own new story. A little bit too far-fetched for any of the books or the movies, and that's saying a lot because some of the movies got pretty crazy. And then of course, From Russia with Love 007. I can't say enough good stuff about this game. It's the third-person action game with Sean Connery playing 007, based on the 1963 movie From Russia with Love, one of my favorite movies of all time. Shenmue for the Sega Dreamcast, another one of my favorite games. This is one of the games that got me back into playing video games when I was taking a little break from it. This got me back into video games hard, and maybe I should be mad at it for that because I wasted a lot of time when I could have been doing more productive things. But anyway, I had a fun time with this game. It mixes many genres. It's a fighting game, it's a beat 'em up game, it's a role-playing game, It's a racing game. There's just a lot of genres mixed up into this, and I enjoyed every bit of it. It felt like a movie. It felt like a game. It almost felt like real life, like a life simulator. How interactive it was, and how there was a day-night cycle. There was a time cycle going through. There was a calendar you play through every night. You go home, go to bed, get up the next morning. Really time consuming, and I don't suggest playing it if you don't have a lot of free time. But if you just really want to relax and have a fun, relaxing time playing a video game, this is the one. Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64. This is another game that I really got into kind of around the same time as Shenmue. I had never really played this much when it first came out. I remember I rented it once and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out where to find the sword, so I lost interest with it. I never got out of Link's little home village. Then later on, it could have been 5 years later. It was when the GameCube was already out. My brother was playing it on Nintendo 64, and it looked amazing. And my wife just got a Nintendo 64, or she was my girlfriend at the time, and she was playing it too. I was thinking, man, this game looks really good. It really reminded me of the original Zelda, but brought up to 3D graphics. So I got a little disc for GameCube that had it on it. It had the Master Quest in the original game. And so I played through it on the GameCube. It was the exact version that this is. I played it through on the GameCube as my brother and my girlfriend were playing through. And we'd always be exchanging notes and talking about what dungeon we're on, or helping each other out with the dungeons. But man, this was a really fun adventure game. This is like, you can't ask for any more with this. If you like the original Zelda for Nintendo, this is just bringing it up to another level. It's even longer. I kind of prefer the original because that's something you can kind of play through in a few hours. This thing is time consuming. I've beaten it once and I can't ever go back and beat it again because it's just so time consuming. Tetris on the Game Boy. Despite being very simple, this game is addicting. I've spent a lot of hours on this. It's helped me out during a lot of boring times. Yeah, before I had a telephone or a smartphone, this was the thing I was being antisocial with, playing a Game Boy, not looking anyone in the eyes, just sitting there playing a Game Boy with Tetris on it. Resident Evil 5. And here's my collector's edition for Xbox 360. I bought this when it first came out. I think I pre-ordered it. I loved Resident Evil 4 so much. I had to try this. I wasn't disappointed at all. Made a few little changes from Resident Evil 4, but a lot of it suited the game. I know a lot of people don't like this because they say, oh, it's not a horror game. It just has too much action. Why can't you just be backtracking around in a mansion, finding puzzle pieces? But I don't know. I'd have to say I like this better than a lot of the earlier Resident Evils. If you play it through on hard with no infinite ammo as you're supposed to, it's really hard. The ammo is really sparse considering it's a shooting action game. You really have to place your shots in this game or know how to deal with the enemies in the right way. And it's a 2-player co-op game. Yeah, this has online multiplayer co-op. So that's a lot of fun. My best friend and I would play this all the time online. We played through this game many times online. My best buddy lives in a different country now, so we can't play games together too much. And we both have families and kids. But for a while there, we were playing this online a lot, and we could talk to each other on the Xbox Live. But this game is really fun to play through. I can't think of any part of this game that's really boring to me. I even played this through with my brother. I played through it with various people I don't know online. I got a buddy at my work to play through it online, and he enjoyed it. He's usually not into games like this. This is just a lot of fun. A horror-themed action game. A really gory, scary, eerie horror action game. The Legend of Zelda for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is one of the games when I first started playing video games. I picked it up and I didn't quite know what to do, but it was kind of fun to explore the map. This was like the first game I ever played that was like a big open world adventure. It's kind of like getting lost is the fun part though, because you don't really know where to go, but anywhere you go there'll be something there for you to do. The dungeons are just hidden in different areas throughout the game, so it's fun to find the dungeons and find your way through the dungeons. Just a really good formula for a game. I don't know if there had been any game like this before this on PC. There could have been, but this was the first time I'd ever played anything like this. And it's still my favorite Zelda to this day. Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is another game that just blew me away back then when I first got into video games. This is a big side-scrolling world, but it's a big open world similar to Zelda. This kind of felt like a science fiction version of Zelda that was, instead of top-down, it was a side-scrolling game with a big map, a lot of areas to unlock, a lot of upgrades to find, a couple boss fights in there, a lot of backtracking, but not in a bad way. There's always stuff to fight, and you can grind out destroying enemies to fill up your health. This is just a really fun game, a really great atmosphere. For a really old game with pretty simple technology by today's standards, this game really has a great feel, a great vibe, a great atmosphere. And I can't think of any other game back then that really nailed it like this game. The controls were good, the music was really eerie. It's something I could just sit and listen to, the music in this game. Okay, Kung Fu for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This was the first game I ever got. My parents bought me a Nintendo for Christmas one year. It maybe was the second year Nintendo was out. I got my Nintendo a little bit later than some people, but I did get it before a few other kids. But anyway, I had played Super Mario Brothers at a friend's house, and I loved it so much I wanted to get one for my own. So my parents ended up getting it for Christmas one year. But anyway, got Super Mario with the Nintendo, and then they got me this Kung Fu game. And I think I like Kung Fu almost as much as Super Mario Brothers back then. It's just a really fun side-scrolling action beat-em-up game. Really simple, kind of short, but pretty challenging, pretty fun. Tight controls, good music, really simple graphics, but it really works. A Kung Fu themed game, of course it's called Kung Fu. Martial arts, kind of reminds me of Game of Death, where you're going up a tower and you're fighting a boss on every level, but you fight a lot of minor enemies on the way up to the bosses. Each boss is unique. They have a unique martial arts style. This was one of the few games my dad actually liked. My dad wasn't really a gamer. He was more into manly things. He was more into cars and fixing stuff. But this was a game he played a lot, and he actually beat it before I did, and he figured out all the little secrets on his own, and he showed them to me. So I have a lot of good memories with this game. My dad really got good at this game. He could tear up this game really fast without taking very much damage at all. He knew all the tricks to all the bosses, and I learned how to do it too. I can still beat this game pretty easily. I haven't played in a while, so I might have trouble now, but usually it always sticks in my head and I can play through this game. It's really short but really fun. Great Kung Fu theme. I love stuff like this. So Kung Fu. Super Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I could have put any of the various versions of Street Fighter 2 in here, but this one had the most on there. It was the largest 32 megabytes. So this was the newest version. It had the most stuff, the most characters. So I'll put this one on the list. I could have put the World Warrior or Turbo Special Edition in there as well. I spent a lot of time on all of them. The first one I got, because I love the arcade game so much, got the first version, the World Warrior, played the heck out of that. When the Championship Edition came out, wasted money on that again, pretty much the same thing, just added some stuff, played the heck out of that. I guess I got my money's worth. And then this one, again, Super Street Fighter, played the heck out of this. I still play this game to this day. Every once in a while I'll try to play through it. I'm getting to where I can play through it on the hardest setting without losing a continue. Yeah, just really fun. Spent a lot of times playing this with my friends back in the day. Really like the music on these games. I remember sometimes I would just sit on the options mode and listen to the music test, the little tracks in here. I really like the music in here. It's probably one of my favorite video game soundtracks of all time. Just every stage in this level, the music gets it right. They're just really catchy tunes. Yeah, and then all the characters were fun. They were all really different, really unique looking characters. So they always would stick in my head. There wasn't one character in here that I thought was boring. Plays really solid. I'm not a competitive video game person. I'm not a competitive fighting game player, but it still feels really tight. Like just as good as anything you'd play now. But anyway, Street Fighter 2 for Super Nintendo. Okay, for the 5, 4, 3, and 2 spot, it's a tie for me between the original Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, and Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES, and Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. These would all be in my top 5 games, but it's hard for me to say which one I like more or which one I like less. I don't know. I can't say which one I like more. I guess if I liked one the least, it would be this one, but it's really hard for me to say that because they improved this game so much and added so much to it. It's hard for me to say that I like it less than Mario 3. Yeah, this game is just so good. Super Mario Brothers 1, of course, the first game I ever got, and played the heck out of it. My buddy and I would play it all the time. My neighbor friends and I would play it all the time. Never got bored of it. Before my best friend had a Nintendo, he'd come over and play it, and I always want to play it. Just so many good memories. This is another game I still play from time to time. I get really frustrated if I die on this game. I try to play through it with warping, and I usually can beat it without dying. But if I die, I get really frustrated. I'm not really good at this. I watch the speedrunners play it, so I'm nowhere near as good as them. The more I watch the speedrunners, the more I try to make little risks, and I end up dying. But if I just go at my own safe pace, I can usually dominate this game still. And Super Mario Brothers 2. This was such a good game. I was so hyped up for this, as were all kids back then. And then it came out, and it was a little bit different from the first one, but it still was Mario. It was still, you press B to run, you press A to jump. It just felt like Mario out of his element a little bit, which was a cool thing. It wasn't the same world as the original game. It just felt like Mario in a different world, but it felt good. Everything about this game was good. I know it's not originally supposed to be a Super Mario game, but it would have been a shame if this had never been Mario, because no one would have really known about Doki Doki Panic. And I think Mario deserves to be on this game. It's just that great. And people would have never really played this game if it would have been Doki Doki Panic. We would have missed out on this. This is just as good as Mario 1 or 3 or World to me. And Super Mario 3, I was a little kid so hyped up for this when it was coming out. I pre-ordered it at The Good Guys, which was an electronics store back then. Every day I'd call them up, Super Mario 3 in yet? No, we'll call you when it's in. The next day I call back, oh, is Super Mario Brothers 3 in? No, we'll call you. Just every day I'd call them, irritating them, harassing them about when Super Mario 3 going to arrive. I was hoping I would have it by Christmas. I forgot what year that was, but it never came in. And then I remember Christmas Day. I had some Christmas money, and I wanted to buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because I didn't get Mario 3 because Mario 3 hadn't arrived at the Good Guys yet, where I had pre-ordered it. But I had some birthday money or Christmas money. It was probably Christmas time. I had some Christmas money, and I was going to spend it on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I usually got 3 games a year if I was lucky. 2 for Christmas and 1 for my birthday. Or maybe 2 for my birthday, 1 for Christmas. Maybe 4. But anyway, I had money and I wanted to buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Christmas night, after Mario 3 had never arrived, I didn't have any new games, so I wanted a new game to play with my Christmas money. So I called Circuit City and said, do you have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? And they go, no, but we have Super Mario Brothers 3. And I was, and I had my parents drive me over there. And I used my Christmas money to buy Super Mario Brothers 3, which I already had pre-ordered at the Good Guys, but it never arrived, so I ended up getting my money back at the Good Guys. Got this at Circuit City. Yeah, good times. But all the hype was worth it. This game was so good at the time. There wasn't anyone that didn't like this game. This game was solid the whole way through. Everything is perfect about this game. The controls, the music, the levels, really ahead of its time. I'm pretty sure it has extra chips in here to run on Super Nintendo. This was really pushing the Nintendo. Just a fun game, a fun time, a lot of fun memories associated with this game. And then this thing's kind of bittersweet for me. I loved it so much, I wanted it so much, but I had to sell my Nintendo and all my games to get it at the time. These are not my original copies. I went back and got them at the flea markets when they were cheap. Or actually, these might be my wife's. These are my wife's original copies. My original copies I sold with my Nintendo and all the games. I think it was like $100 I sold it for to get a Super Nintendo with one game, this game. And at the time it was worth it because this game was so good. I guess in the long run it was worth it because I ended up getting the old games again. So I guess I wouldn't have taken it back. I wanted a Super Nintendo really bad to play this game and Street Fighter 2. So this game, pretty much Mario 3 again, just improved in every way. Better graphics on a new console, more buttons so you could pull off different moves. You could ride the little dinosaur Yoshi. The map was a lot bigger. Actually, come to think of it, if you combined up all the maps from Mario 3, it was probably bigger than this game. But this game was just a little bit more intricate, I think. Anyway, I can't say enough good stuff about this. I'm sure you've heard it a million times. Awesome game. For my number one favorite game of all time, it would have to be Resident Evil 4. And I'd say it was the GameCube version was the one I played the most, but this is probably my favorite version because it is the GameCube version with all of the improvements and all of the bonus material from the PlayStation 2 version. The GameCube version looked a lot better than the PlayStation 2 version, so that's why I like this game. And I don't play this game with the little stupid waggle stick. I play it with the GameCube controller. So this is probably my favorite version of Resident Evil 4 when played with the GameCube controller on the Wii. Yeah, but this was a game I was really hyped up for. It's hard for me to say that this is my favorite game of all time when I'm more of a retro nostalgia guy, like from my childhood. Like these Mario games meant so much to me and my entertainment that it's hard for me to say this is my favorite game, but it is. And this game came out when I was an adult. It was like 10 years ago, so I was in my 20s. I think this is when video games peaked out for me. A lot of time games now are more like, they feel more like they're trying to be movies. This game felt like a video game. It looked like a movie, but it felt like a video game. Like this was just so smooth, and the gameplay was so fun. Just the design of the game was up there with something like Super Mario Brothers. And I love the horror genre, the zombie horror movies. And this really captured everything I liked about horror movies. And not just horror movies, this like really borrows from a lot of great action movies. It kind of feels like there's a lot of Indiana Jones in here, a lot of James Bond. And then the horror movies, feel like there's a lot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in here. A lot of Night of the Living Dead, the way you're just fighting off hordes of zombie-like creatures. There was an old horror movie, or it's not old, maybe 10 or 20 years old, called Dagon. I think the director's name is Stuart Gordon, or Gordon Stewart. This game really feels like it borrows from that movie. But that among many things, this game borrows from, and it just pulls it off so beautifully. It's like everything nerdy and dorky and pop culture that I like all put into this one game. And it just plays so well, and the levels progress so well. And you never get bored. Just every segment of this game is good. Even the parts when you're escorting the president's daughter. Most of the time when you play these escort mission games, it's really irritating because the person you're escorting gets snagged on stuff or doesn't know how to follow you or gets tripped up on something and gets stuck. But the president's daughter actually in here, she's just on you. It's almost like an extension of your character. And if she wasn't on here, I don't think this game would be as scary, because Leon, the player, the protagonist, is kind of a tough guy. You can't really be scared for him. But then when you have the president's daughter, who's not really a fighter, and you have to escort her, then it starts to get scary. Like, you have to look out for her because these zombies are going to grab her and try to carry her away. And a lot of people say that makes the game bad. I think it makes it even better. A couple parts in this game, your heart gets really pounding. You're trying to defeat all these enemies while protecting her. Oh, yeah. And anyway, speaking of the main character, Leon, Resident Evil 2, I could take or leave Leon. I always thought he kind of seemed like a little pretty boy. But man, he is really a man's man in this game. If you look at his little haircut, he kind of seems like a little pretty boy, but he kind of reminds me of a James Bond type character. That's why I really like him. And he's a tough, manly man. I always thought Chris was the more tough guy, manly man, dude bro. But after playing this guy is he's like a ladies man, and he's a tough guy. Just really super cool. I really like his character. He's pretty much just like the Resident Evil version of James Bond. To me, I was such a dork, and I was so obsessed with this game. I went to this nerd convention in Sacramento. All the voice actors were there from Resident Evil games. Not all of them, but quite a few of them. The guy who did Leon's voice was there. I got to take a picture with him. I think his name is Paul Mercier. The guy who did Chris's voice, Roger Craig Smith from Resident Evil 5, was there. The actress that played Sheva in Resident Evil 5 was there. The actress that played Claire in Resident Evil 2 was there. The director of the voice actors in Resident Evil 5 was there. Anyway, I was just a dork for Resident Evil. I don't have time for stuff like that now, but I was a fat slobbering dork for Resident Evil. And my wife came with me to that thing, and I always made sure when I was taking pictures with all of the voice actors, I'd always, to make myself not look like the big dork I was, I'd always make sure to point out, hey, that's my wife over there, and she's going to take a picture with us together. Yeah, I just can't say enough about this game. When I first got it on GameCube, I played it through on normal, And then I went to play it through on hard, and I almost got stuck at the end. When you fight Krauser, and you're timed, and I was out of ammo, out of everything. I kept playing him over and over. I couldn't beat him. I had no ammo. So I had wasted all my ammo on him, and the time was running out. And then I just got frustrated. I started slashing at him with the knife. And then for whatever reason, I beat him. And then I had to race with the puzzle piece down to the door before the time ran out. And I barely got there with 0 seconds to spare. And then after that, it was even harder because I had no ammo or anything to go through those big battlefields at the end of the game. But then after that, I feel like I had a bond with this game because it was so hard. And then played through it many more times. I probably played through this game over 100 times. I played through every version that's come out on every console. I still play it to this day every once in a while if my little girls are not around. I would really like to have this on a portable system. That is like my dream game, to have Resident Evil 4 on the PlayStation Vita. I would buy a PlayStation Vita tomorrow if this was available for it. Or I'd buy a Nintendo Switch tomorrow if I knew this was on it. I'd sell everything just to have this game on a portable system. Oh, the graphics in here, at the time they blew everything away. Even a generation later, they still held up with the graphics then. Even now, if you look at it, it still holds up with a lot of new games. Just a satisfying game to play. I actually unlocked the hand cannon on this with the Wii version. It was so hard for me to do all those mercenary modes. I got an S ranking on every map with every character on mercenary mode to unlock the big hand cannon, and that was so hard. I don't think I could ever do it again. Yeah, anyway, so those are my favorite video games of all time. My top 20 video games. That's just off the top of my head. I was doing this video in a hurry. There could be some I missed. Yeah, I'm sure I've missed a few in there. Let me know what your top 20 games of all time are. I know that's cliche now, a lot of people do it, but I've never done it before. I don't care. Yeah, so let me know what yours are, and I'll see you next week with my diet update. Bye.